Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bucs Bounty. We are back after that crazy storm in Pittsburgh. I hope everybody's doing really well. I got stuck in Altoona, Pennsylvania for 2 days because of that storm after doing an event. I'm sure everybody has stories like that. It was crazy. I'm glad you guys are here with us. And joining us, Jonathan Mayo from MLB Pipeline, our favorite prospect man, knows all about the youngins around baseball. Jonathan, how you doing, man?
You say that to all the prospect men.
That's right. Yeah. All the prospect men. I think you might
That's
be the
different
only
though,
one we've had
Jonathan.
on.
That's different.
All right, let's start with the obvious. 5 Pirates make your guys' initial list of the 2026 top 100 with MLB Pipeline. Number one, we all know Konnor Griffin. Bubba Chandler's at 11. Seth Hernandez, the first draft pick for the Pirates last year, is 29. Edward Florentino, 50. Hunter Barco, 96. Some really good stuff. Some guys, obviously, we've seen affect the big leagues in Bubba Chandler and Hunter Barco, and then some really young guys in Konnor Griffin, Florentino, and Seth Hernandez. I feel like a good mix. Jonathan, when you think about the Pirates minor league system, what really stands out to you other than, I mean, obviously we know Konnor Griffin's right there at the top, but what does is this a full minor league roster, or is this more very top heavy, would you say?
No, it's pretty deep, and I think there was a stretch where the Pirates were probably more top heavy. Like they've had some top prospects, but it wasn't quite as deep. I feel like it's both. I mean, they're for me one of the best. We haven't done our farm system rankings yet, but they're one of the best systems in baseball at this point because they have those guys at the top, and it's interesting throughout. Working on their top 30 right now, and when you get to number 30, and then there are guys after that, you're like, oh, that guy's actually kind of interesting. And if there was room, maybe I'd have more. You could go pretty deep here. So uh, it's all good, and you have guys at the upper levels who are going to impact the team in Pittsburgh this year, and then it filters on down at every level. So I think we all know that for there to be any kind of consistent winning at the big league level, there has to be continual, finding of players and player development. It's the only way it can work here.
Jonathan, first off, if you wonder why I'm 4 feet shorter than both these guys, just had
I've
knee
met you in
surgery,
person.
slouched over. Ouch. I'm pretty much Tiny Tim right now. Thanks, Jonathan. I love the goatee. Somebody we both fell in love with was Seth Hernandez. I got to coach him at USA Baseball. Love the kid, but the stuff's even better. I was telling Steven before he got on here that his stuff honestly is better than Bubba's. I mean, you could look at it analytically, the changeup, the feel, the breaking stuff, everything he's doing is well advanced. I think it's just a matter of time for this guy to get to the big leagues. And what I mean by time is he's got to get his innings up. He's got to be able to hold that threshold of a big league season. It's not easy. Please tell the fans how good this guy is and how he has a chance to be as dynamic as anybody that's ever been in the big leagues, because the stuff is just absolutely insanely good.
I remember leading up to the draft, you and I talking about him and how we both were sort of secretly hoping that the Pirates might get him. And you never know, the high school right-handers, you don't know where they're going to go. I mean, he was being considered for number one. That's never happened. And I give the Pirates credit for 2 years in a row where they basically took them the best player available, and in some ways maybe might be the best player in both drafts when we look back. He's with Hernandez, it's a really exciting combination because sometimes you get these big, huge high schoolers who can throw 1,000 miles an hour, but they can't pitch. And then sometimes you get guys who have like a feel for pitching, but you hope the stuff is going to come. He's both of those things wrapped into one guy. And you saw it. I mean, he's super competitive. The stuff is really, really good. I think
Great brain.
much in the way that Konnor Griffin challenged the way the Pirates, may try to slow roll high school hitters. I think Seth Hernandez is going to make it difficult for the Pirates to slow him down. They're going to have to, and they should. I think for high school arms, you want to be careful.
Yeah.
But I think he makes Bradenton on opening day, which is not something they normally do. I'm guessing here, and I think he's going to pitch so well that even if they're really monitoring his workload, he ends the season up a level. I think you don't look at age necessarily. High schooler arms, you think, oh, it's going to take a while. He's going to be one of these guys that I think gets to the big leagues at 21, something like that. And it's really, really, I mean, I still think Bubba's a little more electric, but 20, I was being conservative.
I think next year. Yep.
Yeah. We'll see. But he's got both a high floor because of that feel and really high ceiling because the stuff is so good and is only going to get better. So people should be very, very excited about him coming in back of, the arms that are like in the big leagues and getting there.
And real quick, Mayo, talk about how good his high school team was and how advanced some of the baseball he's played, being a two-way guy. I know RJ, his head coach, a really good friend of mine. Just how advanced the baseball IQ is there. Just the Abel brothers, some of the guys that have come out of that. I mean, he had another guy that went, I think, 10th overall at his high school. Talk about that too, because I think people don't understand how advanced he really is when it comes to his knowledge of the game. His knowledge of himself is kind of remarkable to me. But this guy is super advanced, and it really is times the only thing that's maybe holding him back and being able to build up capacity.
Yeah, I mean, Corona High School was bonkers. Still is.
They got another Abel. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got another Abel brother coming down the pike. Billy Carlson was the shortstop that went high to the White Sox, and that's the thing that people don't even realize that with Seth Hernandez, he was a good hitter. He wasn't like a draft prospect as a hitter, but he probably could have been, and definitely could have played two ways had he gone on to college. So there's probably another gear for him as a pitcher now that he's only going to be pitching. And it's a really good program. There's a reason, why teams like taking players from Southern California also. I mean, the competition is good. He was tested, every showcase, Team USA, you name it. He's passed every test against competition with that, like I said, that other gear that you often see from two-way players giving up one of those things. And it's interesting because I think he wasn't just, he was a really good high school player, so he hit. He's a hitter. I mean, he hit in the middle of that lineup. He helped them win the NHSI, the National High School Invitational, with his bat. As a junior, I think it was, he came up with a huge hit. So it's, it wasn't just like, he happens to swing the bat, but he's not going to hit at the next level. That was a talent, and he spent time on it that he now will use to focus on the craft of pitching.
We have two guys who are at the top, hopefully, of this rotation for the next few years that both were good hitters. Bubba Chandler obviously played in professional baseball as a two-way guy. And then Paul Skeens wasn't a full-time pitcher until basically he went to LSU his junior year.
And Jared Jones. Don't forget Jared Jones.
And Jared Jones. That's right. And so there's a lot of history, I think, with the Pirates that shows that. I think that helps the maturity of this a lot as a pitcher. Something that I always took. I was a two-way player at a very small college, but it really helped me learn how to pitch against hitters because I could figure out as a hitter what pitchers were trying to do to me. And I think that mind game, just going back and forth, I think for Seth Hernandez, that's going to be a huge boon for him to be able to take that into pro ball and how he wants to face hitters. Let's talk about one of those hitters for the Pirates, because I do want to get to, obviously, we can always talk about Konnor Griffin. We all know the jumps that he made, getting to #1 overall so quickly, seeing the defense improve, seeing the offense really take off, seeing the hit path so nice and compact. But let's talk about Edward Florentino. This is a guy that we have seen jump up quickly as well, now up to 50. And you can see the eyebrows raising, man.
Yeah.
You're a big fan of Edward Florentino, and I want to know what you see, what makes him so special that jumped him up to 50th in your rankings in the top 100 this year.
There are a few things. I started hearing about him when he was still in extended spring training last year. Right, he came to the States for the first time.
That's not normal, Jonathan. That's not normal.
No,
right?
No, and it's
Okay.
the conversations I have, with folks in the Pirates player development staff is, people are always going to tout and love their own guys, and I always give the Pirates credit because they tend not to overdo it, and so this wasn't a, oh my God, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. It was more like, you're going to want to keep an eye on this because they already could tell and extended that he was going to push his way. They were telling me then that they thought he'd probably make it to Bradenton that year. And because he looked so good in spring training and then extended. And then he just kept doing it in the Florida Complex League. And then he more than held his own in Bradenton. And I think it's a combination of things with Florentino. The data is just ridiculous. The exit velocities are off the charts routinely. It's not just, oh, he hit the ball really hard once or twice. His like 50th percentile exit velocity is insane. All of it. He's already starting to get to his power. He has an approach. It's not like he's going up there and swinging at everything, and because it's lower levels, he's teeing off on it. So, all of that's good. And then there's another piece of it that doesn't have as much to do with his offense, but who it seems like he is as a young man. This was a guy when he was first coming over to the States, was a sort of outfielder / first baseman, with most people sort of thinking, oh, he's probably going to end up at first base. He just remade his body and committed himself to proving that he could play the outfield, and not just outfield. He is now an above average center fielder who has every chance to play center field for a long time. And to me, that gives you an inkling, and there's no guarantees once he starts moving up the ladder, that he's putting in the work and he's going to make the adjustments, and he's just not satisfied with showing up because he's naturally gifted to make the most out of his abilities. I have a feeling that a year from now we're going to look back at 50 and realize that was light.
Ooh, I like that. Speaking of somebody that's not light, talk about Blanco Jr. This is a big human being, right? And
Yes.
probably going to be teammates with Florentine. I want you to talk about, this guy went through a lot over the last 2 years, right? His dad passed away in a tragic accident in the Dominican Republic, but just talk about what this guy profiles as. He hit the hardest ball ever hit in baseball. I don't know if many people saw that happen in a home run derby, Arizona Fall League. Steven, you may have even been there, but this guy is a freak. You talk about data. He's not in the top 100, didn't get enough at bats, but he did show a little bit of mixture of power and the ability to hit for some average. There's going to be huge swing and miss in guys that are big because they have to figure out how to coordinate their body. But Jonathan, have you seen a freak like this very often?
No, I was at that home run derby, and normally, I'm like, home run derbies by now are a little passe. I've just been to too many of them, and I've seen some great ones. And it's just like, usually it's not like it's that telling in terms of like scouting profile and what a player is going to be. That was absurd. I've never seen anything like that. Like, I just
The line
like,
drives, right?
what's that?
The line drives look like they were hurt people.
He missed hit balls to right center field that were like 450 feet. Like, it was like dumb.
Like Stanton.
And then he put the ball like, over the stadium, like onto the roof.
Yeah.
Sloan Park and Mesa. It was like, I think you could put him in a big league home run derby, and I would pick him to win because, like, I think he could hit homers forever. Like, he didn't even really look tired. It was nuts. So the strength is there. There's plenty of bat speed there. It's not that he doesn't have any approach. I just don't know that he's going to hit. Like, we're going to have to wait and see as he moves up. He's missed so much time because I think the other thing is that he's got to stay healthy. And a guy that size, I think a lot can go wrong because it's not just he's not just tall.
He's big.
The only other person that I can think of that I've been around where you're just like, oh my goodness, in terms of, is Aaron Judge. And just as a whoa. And Blanco is so young, and so he's going to have to watch his body. He's so big. Like, I'd probably be okay at first base. If you hit enough, it doesn't really matter, but you don't want a guy that age to be a DH. And I'm still working on the Pirates top 30, and I'm not sure what to do with him. Like, I'm not sure he's making the list.
Really?
Part of it is the depth of the top 30,
That's
and part of it
awesome.
is just
Yeah.
like I'm concerned about him hitting enough. I'd like for him to get 500 at bats, and so then you can really see, because guys like that, as much as anybody, need the reps, just because it's so hard for him to repeat his swing, and be on time and all those things, and not being able to do that is tough. But man, that home run derby, I'll be talking about that one for a long time.
Yeah, it reminds me of I played against Aaron Judge in Low A and when he was in
Oh,
Charleston. And at that time he wasn't Aaron Judge, right? He was just a massive guy and everybody knew who he was, but he wasn't that guy yet because he hadn't developed into his massive body. Henry Blanco, for me, can be a very similar case. It might take him a little bit of time to really learn what he needs to do to get to that point where he can be a consistent hitter. It's a hard thing to do. People are really good at pitching now. Let's talk about somebody slightly
a
up
little
the
bit more
ladder.
big
That's
bone
Merlin
too.
Valdez.
Steven,
A big
that
bone.
big
Yeah,
bone body.
big
Oof.
bone. Yeah, dude, I talked to him in person at the Fall League, and I was just looking straight up. It was crazy. He's a massive human being.
He got him, and he's done it again.
Welcome to Unobstructed Views.
We're at BP. We're going to get an inside look.
Once you start loving each other, you start fighting for each other.
Welcome to Coach's Corner. And he'll admire it, so will we.
Is that too much to ask for?
Oh, baby.
Let's talk about Merlin Valdez, not on the top 100. I think that surprised both Michael and I because we love this guy. He had an incredible season this last year. 286, 896 OPS at 26 homers. Where does Valdez stand for you going into 2026? Because we obviously like what we've seen, but you have a better eye for these sort of things. So I'm just curious what you see in Valdez and how you see him progressing this season.
Well, I mean, to be fair to you guys, I don't know that I have a better eye. It's just that I have to pay attention to everybody, and you guys are much more powerful. It's sort of like when I talk to a farm director from any team, I'm going to expect them to like their guys more. It's rare to have a farm director who compares to 900 other prospects or whatever it is. He is going to make a very nice jump up the Pirates' top 30. As he continued to make his sort of trajectory up. I think the combination of how much is it power over hit as in the upper levels and what position does he play limits the overall excitement. I'm very bullish on him. He's a great kid too.
Yeah, he is.
And I appreciate players, especially after going through the grind of a minor league season. Those guys in the fall league, Steve, they're gassed. And he played a full year. He hadn't missed a bunch of time or anything like that. And the joy that he brought, he's the kind of guy it's infectious, and I think will help a clubhouse and will help team on the field. And I think he's going to be a good big league hitter. I think this year he'll answer the question: is it elite level where he needs to be top 100, or is it just a solid big leaguer? There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So I want to wait and see him at the upper levels for a longer period of time. The fall league, even the first half of the fall league, he was the greatest hitter who's ever walked the face of the earth. And then it kind of regressed to the mean a little bit, or, he was out of juice or whatever it was. And the pitching there was so bad that it's really hard to know how to evaluate any performance there.
That's crazy.
I'm bullish on the bat speed and the power, and then we'll see what the rest looks like this year. And
you pretty much answered this, but maybe the fans didn't catch on as much as I just did. But compare him to Password, because I loved Oviedo. It's one of the trades I hated to see happen. I know that we had more pitching and we were going to use that to get hitting, but compare these two guys, because everybody's talking about Password making the team out of camp. I don't see a good path there right now. But I keep thinking, well, if he has a chance, why does Valdez not have a chance? Obviously, he's got 8 days in the big leagues or whatever it is, but it's not much, right? So please talk about those two, compare those two. What's different? It seems like positionally is maybe the biggest difference. Password from Boston maybe has a better edge on him when it comes to an actual position.
Yeah, because I think Password can play the outfield. I think Valdez might be fine in a corner. And we may look back, Michael, and realize that there's not that much difference between the two of them at all. I think it is similar profiles, power over hit. Password's got more experience, played at the upper levels for longer. He's a year older and knocking on that door. And that might be it. So I think it is, in this case, we're sort of comparing apples to apples. And it's just, I think
perfect.
It is the kind of thing where they might be the same. And then might, just may be proximity to the big leagues, and like I said, Garcia's got some success at the upper levels, and that's not taking anything away from Valdez. He just got there, right? So, and it wasn't in Double A long enough to be like, oh, all right, he's conquered that. Let's push him up the ladder. I'd be
thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, I think it's more like there's a better chance that Garcia impacts, even if it's not opening day, impacts the big leagues this year. And Valdez could go off. We've seen it start in Double A and end the year in the big leagues, but that would be a pleasant development for the Pirates and not something that should be expected.
Jonathan, before we let you go here a little bit, I want to talk about somebody who we've talked about a decent amount, but I think could end up being a huge part of what makes the Pirates really, if they're going to be really good this year, which is obviously the hope. Interestingly enough, 38% chance to make the playoffs coming from MLB and their projections, which is actually pretty solid. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about is filling out the bullpen for the Pirates. Brandon Bidois is somebody I find very interesting, and I'm curious if you see him as a guy who has a chance to start the season in the big leagues near the back end of that bullpen for Pittsburgh.
I would think so, right? That's why they added him to the roster.
Yeah.
It's a crazy story,
He's an Aussie. It's got to be crazy.
Well, as an Aussie, it's not like he signed for a lot of money. He kind of didn't show much. He pitched in the fall league in 24. I have no recollection of that whatsoever, which he couldn't throw a strike. And then this year, the stuff just played. I mean, I don't remember what the streak was. Do you guys have that? It was like some bonkers.
Yeah, it was
retired in a row, shutout in it.
It was innings without giving up a hit or something like that. It was an absurd number.
Something.
And I heard he's a psychopath, which
nuts.
Yeah, which I love.
He very much fits that sort of back end of the bullpen profile. And then it's going to be, will he throw enough strikes to be trusted in high leverage situations? And I think that's always the question with relievers like that. And he's been a little bit up and down. It was better. He doesn't have to be pinpoint, right? We've all seen guys pitching back into bullpens who can be a little wild, and that, that's a lot of times why starters end up in the bullpen. And so it doesn't have to be quite as precise because you only need them for an inning. But you can't walk the ballpark, right? So I think as long as he keeps it within check, and last year was better. He was at 4 per 9, which was down from what he had done previously. I would love to see a little bit more improvement with that before I'm giving him the ball, say, in the 8th inning. But in terms of filling out the bullpen, I think he's ready to get that chance. And I think the Pirates over the years have done a really good job of building bullpens with not recognizable names, because they don't have the ability to go out. Yeah, they don't have the ability to go out and sign a guy. And so they went and got Aroldis Chapman, and he obviously was just bizarrely good for a man who's 92 years old. Yes, yeah,
Never been hurt. Knock on wood.
but like it's
amazing.
but the fact that he largely was good. I mean, but that's a rarity for them to go out and spend anything
Right.
on relief, because I think they've done a good job of finding. And again, it's not even like taking a guy who was a starting pitching prospect. All right, we better shorten him up because it's not working. They find these low signing international guys like Bidouin or undrafted free agents or late round picks or whatever it is, and turning them into good bullpen pieces. And it works, in two directions. One, it helps them find whatever success they have at the big league level and put together a good pitching staff. And I think, what we've seen is that at times the bullpen ends up getting overworked. Not as much, I think, because the rotation's better. But that's why sometimes you look a few years ago, bullpen's great, and then the second half they sort of tail off. It's like when the defense is on the field for too long, for a football team.
We had two starters. Remember that? That was nuts.
Yeah. So, but then also those guys end up being good trade pieces down the line, because if you're not competing, the teams that are competing are always looking for bullpen help down the stretch. And the Pirates always seem to have guys that can bring something. We're not talking huge, they're not trading Mason Miller, but they have guys that are tradable. Obviously David Bednar was the sort of large exception of being a guy. But even he, think about how they got him, right? So like, you never know where they tend to find the David Bednars, and then they find the supporting pieces, all of whom help the big league team be competitive. And year over year, they tend to have some of the better bullpens, and then use those guys as trading pieces if they're not competing. Now, the hope in Pittsburgh, of course, is that they don't have to do that this year because they're hanging around the NL Central.
Yeah,
I have to say quickly before you go, Michael, it was 18 consecutive hitless innings. Our producer Nick Belsky sent us that stat, which is just ridiculous. That's 2 no-hitters in a row out of the bullpen. Yeah, for a reliever.
Is that good?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I really have 2 questions. I'm going to stick to one. Be a good boy. Why is Moss not getting any love? That guy's hit Moss, the kid we got in a trade from Kansas City, I believe. Callan
Moss, yeah.
Yeah, Callan Moss. I always want to say Dylan Moss because the Moss brothers I know really well, but the dude's hit everywhere. He hit in college. He hit at every level in the minor leagues. He was MVP of the Appalachian League before he got drafted. I know he's older, but this guy's got the swagger. He's hit everywhere. And no matter what he does, it seems like he's just laying in the wind. And I guarantee you, I'm not going to guarantee you, probably because I've not seen him play enough, but this guy's hit 300 everywhere. Power started to show up, obviously a small ballpark in Greenville, but he also seems to love the big moment. But he's not getting any love. And I've heard through the grapevine he's a pretty good defensive first baseman as well.
So, yeah.
I know they've thrown you for a loop.
No, it's fine. I think I actually saw him play for Greensboro when I was in Asheville last year.
The data looks good.
And I looked at his numbers. I'm like, oh, okay. So, yeah, I mean, the one thing is Greensboro, it's if.
But he's played half the season at Bad Hitters Park.
Sure. He's a right first baseman without a pure power profile. And I think that's probably
the answer. But he's a pure
answer.
Power build, right?
Okay.
Yeah. I just wonder like why he's not getting
for it to show up. He's actually not that old. I think he's 22. So
okay. I thought he was 24.
Yeah, and I think he's 22. Listen, he bounced around, right? 3 different colleges. He was an undrafted free agent. And I think sometimes you don't get a good look at those guys. If he had stuck at one place in college and hit, that's like a day 3 kind of 15th round draft pick. But and sometimes guys like that just hit their ways to the big leagues because hitters find their way into big league lineups. But he is a first baseman.
Is what he reminds me of.
Yeah, I mean, he's a first baseman only. He's going to have to, I think, get some more power before people sort of land him on a larger prospect radar because he's so limited.
That makes sense.
ways.
That makes sense. Yeah, I was just wondering because like he's doing the thing that nobody's really doing, right? He's just hitting, right? We're not seeing that much anymore. He's just got a hitter's profile, and I think Steven
and it
does
might
as
come.
well.
Listen, I believe in the idea of like letting a guy hit first, right, and then hopefully the power comes. But he's a big dude.
That's usually
right?
how it
So
plays. Yeah,
it's not like he's projectable and like, oh, he just needs to fill out and add strength. You don't want him getting bigger.
No.
So I think let's see what happens. Let's nudge him up to an upper level and see if it still works. There are guys like that. The Phillies have this guy Keaton Anthony. If you go look up his numbers, it's very similar profile. Right, first base only, and just hits over 300 everywhere. Like high, like batting title type thing. And I'm like, all right. I mean, I don't know what you do with that guy. In today's game, can that guy exist? I wish he could play left field or something like that, but or third base. But
the way that they can spread the lineup, you think, yeah, they could, right? Because you can have a second baseman like we have. They get 31 homers, so that kind of takes away the whole power profile of first base.
If you can have that, that's a hard spot to not have run production. And listen, I think the Pirates are going to have a little bit of that because Spencer Horwitz does not fit. We're going off on a tangent. He doesn't fit that the typical profile for first base.
Yeah, or Heaney.
Yeah. So we'll see with a guy like Miles. Yeah, he's interesting. Probably not enough to put on the top 30 yet, but if he starts raking again, and some of these guys are going to graduate off, pretty quickly. Bubba's going to graduate off, and knock wood, Konnor Griffin's going to graduate off, and then I'll have to add guys.
Yeah, and Barco. Don't forget my guy Barco. Guy's nasty.
Barco, man.
Barco, dude.
Hey, Jonathan, it's always such a blast having you with us. We could probably talk to you for like 3 hours.
About just his facial hair.
Thank you so much.
No one wants that.
Just this right here.
Beautiful.
Yes. Does this help you think? I think that's why you do that. Gives you a little bit of extra.
I've been working on it. Yes.
Is it magic at all? It looks magic.
Well, we'll have to see. If Konnor Griffin makes the opening day roster, then yes.
Ooh,
yes,
I agree.
Then it stays.
Let's
love
do
that.
it.
Jonathan Mayo from MLB Pipeline joins us here on Bucs Bounty. When we come back, we got some more stuff coming at you. Jonathan, thank you for joining us, and we will see you very, very soon.
Sounds good, guys.
No one destroys a baseball like Oneil Cruz.
That is the hardest hit ball in known Major League history.
Pitchers should consider themselves warned.
And it is gone! There's a Cruz missile!
Log in with your cable provider and stream the Pirates all season long on SNP 360.
Always a joy talking to Jonathan Mayo, especially about the young Pirates, the young Bucs that we're going to see coming up. But you know what, Michael? Like, I feel like the most important thing right now is to talk about the Pirates that are on the roster and the Pirates that or the possible Pirates to be on the roster this season, because there's a lot of hope in Pittsburgh. And this is a very good sign, right? To actually see fans and us, guys who do this for a living, researching this, actually feeling like the Pirates have put themselves in a pretty solid position to do some damage this year. Now the problem comes down to there's a few holes on the offense that we were hoping to fill, and really the two guys that you and I were championing most for third base, Eugenio Suarez and Yohan Moncada, have both signed somewhere else. They're both gone, right? So now that those guys are gone, you have to figure out, are you going to try to make a different signing, or are you going to try to find a way to trade or make something work, or are you just running in with the guys that you have? So let's talk about that. Spring training starts in like a week, dude. It's an early spring training this year. First game of the season is March 26th. I mean, the season keeps getting earlier and earlier and earlier. So we're close. And so we're still looking at another bat, and there's not much time. So we've got a few choices, and I'm going to start, Michael, with the guy that I know that you want the most at third base here. And it's hard
I have
to
a good
argue.
setup. Don't do it. I got a good setup for this.
Okay. And I
Steven,
pause,
how do
and
you
I relinquish to you.
Yes. How do you say my name in Spanish?
Miguel.
And
McKenry's tough.
No, not McKenry. Miguel Duhar. That is who we want, right? And
We want to add Duhar.
we want to add Duhar Miguel.
I like
I
that.
think it's a perfect fit, right? Plays both corners, can play some outfield. We were just talking to Jonathan Mayo about a hit first guy. This guy hit first guy. He's not going to go up there and walk. He has the ability to stretch a lineup. He puts together good at bats, even off the bench. He showed last year in a playoff push with the Reds what he can do, even with Key Bryan plays getting most of the reps at third base. You're going to take a little bit of a shot defensively, no matter who you get, because if Triolo is not there or Nick Gonzalez aren't there, there's not many better defenders out there in free agency who may be able to trade. So for me, Andujar is a perfect, and I mean perfect fit for the Buccos. He has been since the start of this entire free agency. I think he's a cheaper option. I think he's a guy that doesn't need a ton of at-bats because he's been through the ringer. He's been hurt. He's been a Rookie of the Year candidate. This guy has been across the board a special player at times, a very bad player at times, but he always seems to be right in the middle of exactly who he is, a good hitter that plays average to below average defense, and he's a good teammate, and he knows what it's like to win. So he played last year on the A's on a bad team, moved over to the Reds on a good team, ended up doing well there too. This guy doesn't seem to be afraid of the spotlight, the limelight, nothing. So once again, how do you say my name in Spanish, Steven? Make sure I get that right.
I believe it is Miguel. We would like to add Duhar. Is that
correct?
Is that right?
That is exactly right. We didn't plan that at all, folks.
And I
can't tell.
I agree with you. So last year was the first time that Miguel Andujar played more than 80 games since 2018. 2018. Like, it's been a while. And that season with the New York Yankees is when he almost won Rookie of the Year. He had incredible stats. He hit over 300 and he got 600 plate appearances, right? Since then, he's been hurt a bunch. He hasn't gotten that starting role at places that he's played. And so now he's out there and he is cheap. And last year in 90 games, he hit 318 with an 822 OPS, 10 home runs, 17
folks.
doubles. 822. That's not
and he's a run
small
producer
sample size either. Exactly. I like the idea. The most important thing to me in acquiring a third baseman has always been, if you're going to go get somebody, they have to be a better hitter than the guys that you have available, because the guys that you have available in Jared Triolo, for example, he's a really good defender. So if you're going to lose on the defense, you have to definitely increase on the offensive side. I think Miguel Andujar is the only guy still available on the free agent market that you'd be able to make that happen. Seeing Brendan Donovan get traded to the Mariners, that hurt me. I really thought he was a great fit for the Pirates, but obviously that's not going to happen. We also brought up Paul DeJong as a possibility, but last year, 642 OPS in 57 games. He's getting older. He's been getting worse throughout the years. Not a guy that I think would really improve this offense. And I think based on the way that you're shaking your head, you agree with me. Okay, so let's say third base stays the way that it is, and you're basically using either Jared Triolo or Nick Gonzalez or Nick York, maybe even getting thrown over there as some other options that you're going to play that in-house. Okay, if you're going to play third base in-house, then I still think that getting an outfielder would be a lot of help. I'm just going to skip our great producer, Nick Belsky, gave us a list of some guys that have been talked about, possibilities out there in the free agent world. I'm going to skip Michael Conforto because I don't think Michael Conforto is a guy that you want here. I don't like the fit. He did not hit righties last year. He didn't, and that's his whole thing. He hit lefties actually okay, but he's really, really struggled against right-handed pitching. Too much of a risk for me. I don't think that he'd be a good fit. Somebody I do think would be a good fit to play every day in left field, if you want this, is Randall Grichuk. Randall Grichuk, okay, has played over 100 games every year. Yeah, former teammate. Since 2015, he's played over 100 games every year. And then in 2020, when it was COVID, we only played 60 games. He played 55 of those games. He has not been hurt, knock on wood for him especially. But it's something that the Pirates could really use, the consistency. This guy's numbers throughout his career have been so consistent. He's a career 251 batting average, 763 OPS. Last year, he was just under those numbers, but pretty similar. And he's a guy that I really like because he's cheap. He signed for 1 year, $5 million last year in Arizona, and he had an option option, a mutual buyout option for this season. The Diamondbacks bottom out. So there's $3 million in his pocket to start this year. So he's probably going to be even cheaper. I really think, I know right-handed hitter isn't necessarily as sexy in Pittsburgh because it's a hard place to hit as a righty, but I love that he can play defense. He's a hard worker and he's out there and he's consistent. Michael, I mean, he would be my pick as far as guys we still have left. What do you think about Randall Grichuk?
I love Randall. And if Adahar wasn't on the table, he would be a thought for me. And if Kutch wasn't on the table, it would be a thought for me. But if you add an Adahar and a Kutch, it's hard. And I'm saying Kutch playing some outfield. With a Mangum, guy that can float around. You also have Jack Swinski, who's a better defender than Grichuk now is. So you look at what we have on the roster, I feel very confident in our defense, so we could add that bat first guy. And I think we could add two of them. And I think all three of them have done well off the bench. Grichuk's a lot better against lefties than he is righties over his career, I believe, if I remember correctly. But you're talking about a very dominant pull guy, a fly ball first guy. The smaller ballparks are always going to help him. But I don't know how you don't use Adahar at third base and in the outfield, especially to kind of bolster that lefty dominant lineup you have, because he can play first base. Grichuk can't. And then also, if you can go out and get Kutch, give him that last hurrah. I've watched him hit over the offseason. He looks awesome. But also, I think the way our lineup is kind of being put together, whether you add a Grichuk or Andujar, you still need somebody that can see pitches, that can extend at bats, can push out starters, that can get to bullpens. We don't have that guy. Lowe's a swinger. You think of Heaney, but is Heaney going to play every day with Horowitz? Those are our two guys.
You mean O'Hearn? Heaney's the pitcher.
Yeah, sorry. I keep doing that. O'Hearn and Horowitz, you have two guys that really extend the bats. You take Kutch out of the lineup, you have 7 guys throughout the lineup that aren't going to extend the bats, and adding a veteran McCutchen with the ABS, his numbers go up automatically with that. A better lineup. I think all these guys' numbers are going to go through the roof comparative to last year. Reynolds is going to tick up. Cruz is going to tick up just by adding the guys we have. But if you add more guys with more pedigree, I really believe the best two are Adahar and Kutch. And I do think passing the torch matters. We've talked about that with Konnor Griffin right on the edge of probably making this team. In my opinion, he's already made the team. But say he doesn't, this pushes Triolo over to shortstop, puts Nicky G maybe in a floating, or even puts Nicky G at shortstop, which makes us a better offensive team at shortstop immediately, and third base immediately, and second base, and first base to start the year. So what else could we ask for, right? I mean, you're talking about a much, much better offensive team across the board on the infield, and we're not talking about if either catcher ticks up offensively, because our defense, by adding Adahar, I don't think takes big of a hit as adding our Grichuk, because he's a one-man show. He's just going to play those corner outfields, not really going to play center. With Adahar, you can move him around. Nicky G, you can move him around. Triolo, you can move around. We know they love moving guys around.
That is very true. I think it's interesting. I just have one thing to say about Kutch. I said this when I was in Altoona, actually, last week. I just have a hard time thinking of, if the Pirates make the playoffs this year, right? Let's say it's the first time they made the playoffs since 2015. Can you imagine Kutch not being on this team when he has the possibility, right? When the opportunity is there for Kutch
if he
to be
didn't
a part
fit, I
of
think
this.
both of us would say. Like,
Exactly. I mean,
he is a dear
I love
friend.
Kutch. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he fits.
But
he genuinely
he
fits on this team
fits.
right now.
I agree with that. I also think that $5 million for Kutch. I mean, he's a great guy, great human being who we both believe, with the introduction of the ABS this year, we both think that OPS is going to go up because his on base percentage is going to go up because he knows the zone better than anybody else in baseball. I kind of want to transition a little bit. This is a question that you brought up, Michael, that I think is very interesting. When I was coming through the minor leagues and trying to make it to the big leagues, and then you get on the big league team, and now you think everything is set because you're here. Well, it doesn't work like that, right? Most of us, we have to constantly earn our keep in the major leagues just to stay there. That's how it is for 90% of major league players. We always see the players with the huge contracts. Those are the guys we usually talk about the most, the super high level prospects, the Paul Skeens, the Konnor Griffins, the guys that we know. The whole point is them to get to the big leagues and then stay and play there for a very long time. It is not easy to do for most guys who are in that middle range, or what I've always called the middle class of Major League Baseball, right? That's just the truth. If you're Nick Gonzalez or Jared Triolo heading into this year's camp, what are you feeling? How are you mentally dealing with, that the team is out in the media saying we're going to try to sign another guy who basically is going to, the point is to come in and take your position that you have been playing. Both of these guys have underperformed offensively over, if you look at their overall stats, they both had spurts where they've played really well, but they haven't been consistent at the plate yet for any large amount of time. How are these guys feeling now, especially that we're so close to spring training and nobody has been signed to take their positions?
I'm going to use an example. After 2012 for me, I had a really good year, went into my exit meeting, right? We do that every year. And they kind of give you an idea of like what they're looking to do. And their whole idea is like, go get John Jaso, and they're going to compliment me and John Jaso. That would be a really good platoon option, everything. So my head, that's the last thing I heard from Neil Huntington. And then I'm in Mexico on a trip with my wife, and I just get a word I can't say from my agent on my phone, and it says Russell Martin. And I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of weird. And all of a sudden he has my number. He's on stage with Neil Huntington getting introduced to the Pirate. I still don't know, Steven. So not that it wasn't the right move. It's 100% the right move for the organization. And it made our team immediately better. We got a catcher we didn't necessarily even think that we had an opportunity to get. We got him. The problem is they didn't communicate that with me. And then I go out my first 6 weeks, I hit 300. He's really struggling, and they're trying to justify that deal. Once again, I get it. The problem is no one communicated outside of Jeff Bannister that, hey, you're not going to get a chance. Do the best you can.
Banny's back.
What do you do as a player, right? What do you do as a player? You press. You try to do more. So I tried to turn 300 into a 2-home run game and a game-winning homer into 3 game-winning homers in one game and 7 homers in one at-bat. And it's just physically impossible. So when you think about these guys like Gonzo and Triolo is literally going through the same thing he went through when he was a 2.5-4 player, right? He got a chance at third base. He was as good as Key Bryant had ever been when it comes to WAR in his entire career. And he didn't even get an opportunity to crack that opening day roster anywhere other than second base, where he felt very uncomfortable. And what did he do? He became a floating guy, played off the bench. We saw it with Josh Swinski. We've seen it multiple times. We saw it with Kutch last year. Kutch had the most awkward at-bats he's ever had. He wasn't set up properly. And it's because the roster sometimes gets diluted with the same type of players. And right now, we don't necessarily have that problem, except with O'Hearn and Horwitz are very similar players when it comes to their profile, their swing. One's better at first base. One may be better in the zone when it comes to Horwitz and his ability to understand where the zone is. But they're both very good, very similar players. So my question is, they're going to have to make a choice. And when they make that choice, they're going to have to really communicate. I don't know how good the communication's been with those guys. I hope it's been off the charts with Donnie. I don't care about the front office. I care about the coaching staff. And how are they handling it? Like, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Because you understand, as you talked about, alluded to, Stephen, at the end of the day, it's a business. And if you're right in that middle range, you're 1 year away from putting together that year that gives you that 2-year deal, that gives you that opportunity to be on SportsCenter's ticker across the board. Michael McKenry signed 3 years, $4 million. Yeah! But
let's go!
At the end of the day, it's really about that opportunity, someone taking that risk, because just going out and getting somebody isn't necessarily always better, because you got to think, and we have the greatest example of this, O'Hearn. You look at his numbers, you look at a Mitch Keller, these guys struggled. but their teams betted on them. And I think that's where we're at now with the Pirates is who are they going to bet on? Whether they bet on Kutch and sign him as a DH and say, hey, you're not going to get the same opportunity. You're going to have to earn the opportunity. That's fine. Would they bet on an Adahar? Would they bet on Gonzo? Would they bet on Griffin? This is where we're at. This is the next step of evolution, I think, for the Pittsburgh Pirates is who are you betting on? Who are the guys you're going to say, we're all in with you. Good luck. You got the next 2 months of at-bats. Because you know, Steven, even if you were the greatest pinch hitter ever as a pitcher, it is really hard to all of a sudden go from everyday at-bats, facing lefties, facing righties, to going to the big leagues, just facing the toughest righties every couple days, or just facing the toughest lefties, because that takes time. So you have to bet on these guys. So I think Joey Bart's back. I think they're taking a gamble on a guy that had an incredible offensive year 2 years ago and saying, shoot, if we can get just a smidge of that guy that we saw 2 years ago, he makes our team better offensively, and he's at a premium position that we think he's going to get better because of Henry Davis. So that's the whole thing for me is they got to bet on him. They got to communicate. And to me, if you don't, that's going to be the downfall of the team. My personal opinion.
I like that. I don't think that's I don't think that's too much. I think it's a hard thing to deal with as a player when you don't know
100.
exactly what your role is going to be.
And I'm sure as a coach too, right?
Right, absolutely.
Because you're balancing the front office and everything else. Yeah.
Right. We've talked to these new coaches that have come in, and it seems like the communication is a huge aspect of what they believe is important to a team like this, especially with so many young guys and so many guys who are trying to figure out who they are in Major League Baseball. And if they're the guys who are going to play for a long time and last, right? That's what the goal is as a middle level Major League Baseball player. The goal is to last as long as possible. And it's not an easy thing to do because there's always more guys coming up trying to take your spot.
All right, Steven, real quick for you, I have a question for you because we talk about this a lot. I think this would be great for fans to hear. We talk about offensively, we've never been that top tier offense. We've been a middle of the road, middle of the pack offense. If you look back last year, we were middle of the road when it came, I think even close to line drive percentage, but to barrel percentage. It just didn't produce the pop that we wanted. Then we go out and we add what we've added. We're already a way, not just kind of, sort of, we are a way better team than we were last year. But we also have all these dudes that have experience that didn't have experience. And that's why we believe that this team could take a huge step forward in a central outside the Cubs that I think it's open for the taking.
I agree. I think that when it comes to the offense of this team, a lot of it's going to depend on guys who have been here for a little while, that we have seen these spurts, these moments where they were really good and we saw what the potential is. That's why they're still around. That's why Nick Gonzalez and Jared Trio, this is why they're still here, is because not only do they play good defense and they're good people, but also we have seen times where they've gone through that they've been legitimate offensive threats. So if you can get as much of that as you can out of the guys that are already here with the guys that the Pirates had added, all of a sudden this team does get pretty scary. And with the pitching that we have, and the pitching that we're going to see this year out of the starters, out of hopefully the bullpen with Dennis Santana at the end. I mean, there's some really good potential for this team to really make some waves this year. And we're going to skip on to a little congratulations. Speaking of Dennis Santana, he gets to the WBC playing for Team Dominican Republic. He's going to be playing with O'Neal Cruz, both going to be joining that Dominican Republic WBC team. Michael, we obviously never got to play in the WBC, but you do so much with Team USA. Paul Skeens will be on the Team USA for the WBC this year. What do you think it means to these guys, real quickly, to play for their country in the World Baseball Classic?
I think everything, honestly. I think once you show up to that first meeting, and you have people that have been in this situation before that have represented their country, it just hits to the depths of your soul you can't explain. And we'll get deep into this. I think we'll probably cover the World Baseball Classic on Bucs Bounty as we go forward. If not, I just tease that we're going to. Because me and you love it. I say we do one live, personally.
Because I like that.
It's too much fun, right? Because you get to see kind of little league-esque old men get out there and fight for something other than a dollar bill or just another game. It's so much more than that. I do wish it was later in the season like hockey, but it's not. And I do love that they're going earlier, they're getting ready, but I do love that the best players on the planet are playing because I think that's what it's about, man. They're playing. I think it'd be a great representation of what could be in the Olympics in 2028. I hope they go all in with allowing Major League Baseball to take a 2-week hiatus like they do in hockey, letting these dudes play. Because I'd love to see what that would look like in 2028. Because we'd have some Pirates on that USA team.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Would love to see it. All right. Well, that is going to do it for us here on Bucs Bounty. It's been a really fun episode. Jonathan Mayo, once again, coming in clutch, talking about all the young Bucs we're going to see. Hopefully, some of them this year, and then definitely some in the upcoming years. But Michael, as always, so much fun. Please like, follow, subscribe us. You can watch us anytime at SportsNet Pittsburgh on YouTube. From our producer, Nick Belsky, Michael McKenry, and me, Stephen Brault. Or sorry, should I say Miguel Adujar? Hopefully we'll see him very soon in a Buckeyes uniform once again. Thank you for joining us on Bucs Bounty, and we will see you next week.